pleasure.
Nice to meet you.
Please have a seat.
Thank you so much.
Sorry, now who are you with again?
I'm with ProAlt. They're lobbyist. It's an alternative protein company.
It's like a veggie burger company?
It is. It's an alternative. They do lots of different, alternative proteins. And we're in Bliss, actually, which is really great. And I'm from Bliss, too. So
Great.
we're
Okay.
all, big fan of both of yours and followed your work.
Well, always delighted to meet with one of our constituents. And tell me a little bit more about why you wanted to meet this morning. I will say I'm a little bit under the weather, so I appreciate your, kind of keeping it brief. And
Of course, definitely. So we're here, basically, we've been running our House bill, which I'm sure you are aware of. But, we've recently it's come to our attention that we have a new Senate bill that I know that you all are thinking of signing on to. And it's we have sort of realized, how polarizing this bill is going to be. But we also know that there's so much at stake. And as a resident of Bliss, I completely appreciate your commitment to maintaining food prices and maintaining the SNAP program for, your lower income constituents. So I came to sort of not lobby on behalf of my bill, but to offer a solution that I think will be really, really beneficial for you and for the animal ag industry. So our original bill was actually very beneficial to the animal ag industry. We were proposing federal funding for research that will allow us to use the byproduct of the soy protein, the chaff and the stems, things like that are already being burned in the field, and try to figure out how we can use that in animal feed. So this is going to create a really much more efficient system of feeding our animals in the animal ag industry and also avoiding burning waste in the field.
Okay.
So this was a very big win for them. And we actually have a couple of Republicans who've signed on. They've responded very positively to it, mostly because I think right now farmers are experiencing a huge increase in feed prices. It's up 27% now in 2024 from 2020. And this is causing, meat prices to rise for our consumers, which is causing, lesser access for low-income people to meat and other products like that. The bill was also focusing a little bit on, trying to more efficiently use our soybean protein in the alternative protein industry, but we're willing to let that go and give this to you as possibly a bargaining chip to try to figure out how to work together with the animal ag industry, perhaps create a new bill to bring us all together. We're really worried about, this new bill coming forth. We know that we're going to have to spend, if this passes, we're going to have to spend a lot of energy figuring out how to fight it with this new, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, well, what do you want to fight? What specifically about that bill are you concerned about?
Right. We're very worried about, first of all, the limitation on alternative protein research. We know that alternative proteins have become a brand new way for us to feed citizens, especially those who can't tolerate meat, or who need a different protein source. And the research is trying to make it cheaper for people to access these kinds of proteins.
how is the research making it cheaper?
It's making it
Aren't there more than hundreds of companies now, or is
Sure.
it too far out the gate? I mean,
Definitely.
What role does government play right now?
Right. Well, our bill specifically as an example was trying to figure out how to make the soy protein more efficient in our processes and try to figure out how we can use the protein that we're getting with our land degradation. Right now, we're experiencing a lot of, 175 acres per hour of a decrease in farmland. So we're trying to figure out how to use what we're getting from that farmland more efficiently so that it's cheaper for the alternative proteins to produce with less costs.
But it's so great. Why, if this industry is so great, why do you need taxpayer money to help to support it?
Well, it's very difficult. The alternative protein industry is really getting off the ground, and we're trying to figure out, how to fund it while also building a company. And this is a brand new form of protein. So, having the government, step in, fund research programs through universities like the ones at Bliss, and try to figure out how we can make these proteins cheaper for people is something we really need in the alternative protein industry.
We don't grow a lot of soy in Bliss.
Right.
And it sounds like you're really focused on soy. Would what you're proposing here have broader implications for other types of crop? It seems pretty limiting to just focus on soy here. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, with the hesitancy of the federal government to pay for programs like this, right now we are focusing on the crop that we know with the research we've already done is going to create the most positive results, but we would love to expand it to peas, other forms of protein, that especially things that we do grow in Bliss. If we have more federal funding, we can do that. But, if it's something that you want to change, we can certainly write a different, make it so that we can use, proteins that we grow in Bliss to carry this research.
So how much more innovation is really needed? I mean, it sounds like we have products available readily today that use soy and are on the market.
Right.
What would the funding through government and, with partners or critical through academia, what would that actually do in terms of, supporting greater innovation? I'm a little bit confused.
Right. Well, right now we have 17 to 18 million tons of chaff of this byproduct being burned in the fields. This is an unused resource. And if we have research that shows that this can be used in animal feed, we can cut the costs of production of animals and production of soy, significantly.
And I mean, if all that's being burnt, there's probably additional benefits from particulate matter and
Definitely.
What's going in the atmosphere.
Definitely.
Sure.
Yeah. And we'd love to as well. I know that we're working, with farms trying to figure out how to, get them on board, and they're facing a lot of climate regulations as well. And I know that they're very upset about that. So, perhaps working with them to try to figure out, limits on regulations in exchange for taking part in this innovative technology, something like that. We're willing to, offer this up as, just a piece of the solution, but then help you to figure out all the other pieces that are going to make everything come together.
So I've got a question. What if, again, the senator has a lot of very different constituencies that she needs to consider.
Sure.
So what are you so concerned about, not just fighting this out in conference? So, your side can have the 1061 bill in the House and then this other bill in the Senate side, and then you can just get worked out in conference. Like, why are you afraid of that fight?
Right. We're just a little bit worried that all of these resources are going towards this age-old fight. This has been something that we've dealt with for so long. And I know that, you're a veteran of compromise. And what we're trying to do is figure out how to best compromise so that we can avoid all of these resources going to waste. We could be working to try to feed more people and try to keep more systems, keep systems more efficient, lessen the blow of farm degradation, things like that, instead of, just fighting this age-old fight.
So I do want to ask a little bit. I mean, you represent an all-protein company.
Of course.
I care a lot about families and I care about nutrition, and I want to make sure that when mothers go to the grocery store and they're picking these products, off the shelves, that they're nutritionally equivalent. And I want to, that's really important to me. It seems like using these labels, like meat, dairy, and eggs, there should be some type of equivalency so that when moms go to the grocery store, they understand what they're getting in terms of nourishing their kids. I'm really worried about that.
Right, absolutely. Well, that's something that's been, duped out in state courts already. We already have a lot of opinions that show us that, courts don't find, as long as the seller uses some kind of qualifier on their protein. So say it's a burger, they say vegan burger, plant-based burger. They've found that this really doesn't create a lot of consumer confusion and that people are relatively aware of what they're buying, and that, including this, having this language, they're trying to ban this language, using it. But we've already had this fight in the courts, and we've already found that people aren't confused and people know what's in their products, and they are trying to figure out what to do that's best for their family.
But are you all working on the nutritional elements of these products?
Well, that was our original bill was focusing a lot, with the federal research for alternative proteins. We were trying to figure out how to best get the most nutritional value out of the soybean. So unfortunately, that'll be severely limited by this new bill. So we're trying to figure out how to combat that so that doesn't happen and we keep, the nutrition and, can enhance it in the future.
So I'm curious, have you all thought about using different terminology other than meat, dairy, and eggs to distinguish yourselves from conventional products? Why is that not something that seems to be,
Right. Well, it's something that, I think that people really, when they're shopping, they're looking for something that resembles, what they're looking for, and by using that terminology, we widen it to more people. I'm happy to discuss that further too with, modifications to our language, things like that. But anyways, I know that we're running out of time and I know that you guys are busy. So I'd love to, just offer my services to you. Please let us know if there's anything that we can do. We're happy to be passive, active in this fight, but we'd love to help you work on a more collaborative solution.
Right. Well, I appreciate your bringing this to my attention. Obviously, it's a very delicate time right now as we're talking about the Farm Bill, but I'm very supportive of innovation, especially happening in Bliss, but have to balance that with nutrition for our families as well as with farmers. But appreciate your bringing this to my attention.
Thank you so much.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a good rest of the day. Nice to meet you. Hello.
Good morning, I'm Sophia.
So nice to meet you. So nice to meet you. I'm Melissa Baines. I'm the Government Affairs Director for ProAlt.
Great. Welcome, have a seat.
So much.
What brings you in to meet with us this morning?
I really appreciate your time. We have
Sorry, who are you with again?
ProAlt.
Is that like a veggie burger company?
We're an alternative protein company in Bliss.
What's that mean?
That means that we are developing alternative proteins to your traditional animal-based proteins.
Okay.
So kind of runs the gamut.
Are you one of the lab-grown companies that make the meat in the bioreactors?
We kind of do, well, we do a lot of things.
Okay.
So yes, the meat in the bioreactors, we call it cultured meat, and that is one of the products that we are really in support of. We're all really concerned because of this bill that's been introduced, S2039. I don't know if you're familiar, but essentially it's kind of trying to shut down the alternative protein sector. And so we're all a bit anxious about that and really happy that you're taking a meeting with us today. Essentially what's going on is that they are trying to kind of cripple us from being able to label our products adequately. So
I'm sorry, who's
there
kind
are
of behind this? What are you seeing and who are you hearing from?
There are 5 Republican senators who are introducing this bill really in opposition to the Protein for All Act, which we've introduced on the House side. And it's kind of in response, essentially everything that we're attempting to do to support the alternative protein sector, they've sort of flipped those things and are...
What were you trying to do to support the protein sector?
So actually, I do have a copy of that House bill, which I can share with you. It does 3 essential things. The first thing that it does is it creates a grant program through the USDA to fund alternative research research and development for alternative proteins. The second thing it does is requires the Secretary of Ag to do an annual report on who's receiving the grants and how the funding is being used. And the last thing it does is really important. It ensures that the alternative protein companies will be able to effectively market their products by protecting their freedom of speech in their marketing and labeling. And so in response, what's happening is that there's this Senate bill saying, no, you cannot label your products referencing nuggets, beef, that sort of thing.
And why not? I mean, don't you think vegans are smart enough to know what products they're buying?
I absolutely think that. And, we've seen in the courts, there was a case a couple of years ago with Miyoko's Kitchen, and the court said, yes, consumers do understand the difference. Language evolves. People get that there's dairy that comes from cow's milk. They get that there's dairy that comes from almonds. Correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like you had a family dairy farm which was converted. I mean, if you were growing those almonds on that farm and people want to make a cheese out of it, I don't think consumers are going to be confused about the fact that it's not dairy.
Almonds are like real food, though. We switched maybe just because small dairies are getting squeezed out. It was just a sort of a matter of survival with this. But I did feel bad for the cows. But yeah, to me, that's different.
Yeah, and I'm curious, have you all thought about you coming up with your own set of terminology to really distinguish yourself from some of our conventional products? If you're so, strong and believe in what you're doing, it seems like it would be, worth your while to think about a different category altogether.
The real concern here is that with food labeling, we just want consumers to be able to understand what it is they're purchasing. And when you're looking at people who are interested in alternative proteins, a lot of them enjoy the flavors of like a chicken nugget. They like the texture, they like that, but they also are looking at climate issues, and they may be switching for reasons that don't have to do with them not wanting a chicken nugget. It's about deeper issues. And, I caught your speech at the Democratic Convention. It was fantastic. And I noticed that you mentioned the fact that we need to be talking about climate smart farming technologies.
Absolutely.
And so this is what constituents are looking for, especially the younger progressive vote. They want to see these alternative proteins. They want to see a chicken nugget that they can recognize, oh yeah, this is supposed to taste like a chicken nugget. That's what I want to eat. I also don't want to be contributing to climate change.
Yeah, I mean, my daughter keeps talking about that unbeatable burger from Burger Queen, and I haven't tried it yet. But you know, I'm a little bit concerned about the nutritional elements here. I mean, I've seen in the Wall Street Journal and other places that I'm not sure if these products can really compete on you know the nutritional side of things. And that's something that, as you know, I'm very, very passionate about. I want to make sure that our families can afford to feed their children, their families, you know, with what they have at the grocery store, and not worry about compromising on nutrition.
Absolutely. That's a really huge priority of ours too. That's really why we were looking to create that grant, because the real problem is we need more research and development to make sure that those nutritional needs are being met. And at this point, the cost barrier is really high because it can be very expensive to do this R&D. And then at that point, it translates into the cost of the product for consumers.
I mean, that's competition, right? I mean, if your sector is so great, if it's such a great product, why do you need taxpayer money?
Well, the other side is also getting taxpayer money. So we're certainly subsidizing that. And honestly, our most vulnerable populations are also, you know, deserving of having these choices. We don't want it to be a situation where you have health concerns, you have ethical concerns, you have religious traditions you're trying to comport with, and you can't afford to buy this alternative protein product. We just don't want to have that barrier of cost.
You know, it's a very delicate time with the Farm Bill right now, and I'm trying to make sure that I'm hearing from all of my constituents and hearing you out. But I'm curious. You know, I'm also, and thank you for you know, listening to my speech. And climate smart agriculture is very, very important to me. I've been impressed, though, what I'm hearing, you know, from our traditional farmers about what they're doing to, you know, to address methane in the food system, and, you know, from their emissions. Why do we really need alternative proteins right now? It seems like the you know, our livestock sector is taking great strides to bring down, you know, their climate footprint and impact. I'm trying to figure out kind of what role do alternative proteins really play here, and to be quite honest, like taking on this particular battle right now when we're trying to feed millions of hungry families seems I'm having a hard time trying to weigh them together.
Yes, I think you're talking about the digesters, which are supposedly helping with the methane problem, but they're really—
And seaweed.
There is not really any good science that supports that those digesters are actually helping to address the issue. And the other thing that we just want to mention is that what we're talking about, and I mean, really, our big ask here is that you would oppose this S2039, but if you are interested in doing a companion bill in the Senate, that would be the biggest opposition, and we would be happy to talk about that, which is sorry why I keep referencing the House bill. But
So what are you afraid of? Why don't, let's just let the best ideas win. So the House side, that, you know, the sort of hippies can have their 1061 in the House, and then the farmers can have their 2039 in the Senate, and then it just fight out in conference, and the best idea will win in conference. Like, why are you afraid of that fight?
I think that's going to just end up in committee, and it's going to get really ugly. And the other thing is, honestly, everyone is losing if we try to cut the alternative protein sector off at the knees, because right now we're looking at being third globally as far as having this research and development. We're only behind Denmark and Canada. This is an industry valued at $75 billion last year, and it's projected to grow over 3 times that by 2030. So it doesn't make sense why we wouldn't want to have that in addition to our traditional ag, which is what we've got right now. This grant program is open to anyone who wants to do this R&D. So people currently working in agriculture, if they want to diversify, as Tyson is doing, one of our biggest food producers, has seen the potential and is showing us that companies actually can make a lot of money off of this. And of course, I mean, our main concern is making sure we have that choice and that it's accessible.
but it's a real moneymaker. And so I'm not quite sure why the
Well,
other
who
side.
isn't a moneymaker for? Because I am a little bit concerned. I mean, of course, I have a couple of alternative protein companies, that I represent, and I've been impressed, Riley, in visiting them. However, I have also traditional farmers, and I'm not sure how I can have an honest conversation with them about how this would support them.
Well, it's not necessarily designed to support what they're currently doing, but it also doesn't do anything to affect what they're currently doing. So it's not saying they need to change their models, that they have to do anything
So
different.
are farmers going to be left out of the alt protein sector as that grows? I mean, it seems like we need to continue to make sure that they're profitable. We have a tough landscape right now with profitability in agriculture, and honestly, doing anything that would upset that further is of great concern to me.
Really, the hope is that they can get involved if they are interested, because it will be available to them. And if they want to diversify, that is an option. If they want to transition, that is an option. And if they want to keep doing the same thing, that's an option.
Our time is wrapping up here, so.
Yes, so we are really looking for your support in opposing that bill. And thank you so much for your time. If you have any other questions about doing a companion bill, please let me know.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Good morning.
Am I talking to the President of the United States? I hope so, because I'm reminding you about Grow Sage, and I looked at the alternative bill, and it's so stupid that you may be the first presidential candidate from the Democratic Party in a long time to carry the farm states. That's how bad their proposal is. Now, I want to go three different reasons why we should not be adopting theirs, and then go back to our core strength here, which is Grow Sage.
No, thank you for your kind comments. And remind me who you are and who
Oh,
you
I'm
are.
Dr. Daniel R. Fruit, and
Okay.
I'm MA, MS, MPA. I'm also a trained economist.
Okay.
Okay.
And who are
now,
you here representing?
Who am I representing? I'm representing Alpro, I believe. I wrote this bill myself. Okay. Now, what's wrong with their bill? First, let me talk about the red herring. The red herring is the name thing. Do you guys buy Pop-Tarts?
No.
I don't know, you know, but Pop-Tart is really a pastry, but everyone calls it now a Pop-Tart. The name thing is not really important. If something has a market for it, people will call it by the name of the product. So if we call something soy milk, or we call it soy milk with an E, that doesn't really matter. So that part of their bill is not important. More importantly, they want to stop all funding for alternative protein. That's foolish for two reasons. Because for number one, the market within the United States that's growing is this market for vegans. And they're not going to buy hamburgers instead of alternative protein. Instead, they're going to end up buying Chinese imports. Furthermore, the biggest growth market is the new rising middle class in China and India. And China has a 5-year plan for which they're going to develop alternative proteins. If we don't produce them, they will. The foolish animal protein industry should actually be reading this bill, should be taking advantage of the research grants, and they should be diversifying their own production. So it's stupid from that point of view. Now, last, apparently there's been some sort of threat that that another senator or somebody is going to vote against the funding for buying food for food support TANF. Where does that food come from? It comes from the subsidized agricultural surplus. So if they didn't buy it, that would hurt the farm states too. So in their bill, there's absolutely nothing for the farm states. At best, we'll have the status quo. And under the status quo, unemployment in the farm states is going up 2% per year. Why? Because we have 50 million acres of farmland that's being paid by the government to go fallow. They're paying people not to grow it because of the greenhouse gas thing. If we were using alternative proteins, as is in grow sage, then what would happen is we would be reducing the amount of greenhouse gases anyway, and the farmers would be getting the money. Further, they have nothing in their bill that's going to basically restructure the farm subsidy industry as our proposal does. Now, what happens in our proposal is that the two current farm subsidy programs, somebody could choose to grow alternative crops instead of subsidized crops. And initially, they would get the exact same subsidy. But unlike the current subsidy program, it would go down 10% a year to eventually they'd not be getting subsidized. But because there's less subsidized crops like corn being grown, then the price of corn will go up and our own farmers will need less subsidies. And again, then TANF, the program that they want to defund, will be paying less money for corn and those products anyway.
I believe it's SNAP, the SNAP program.
SNAP, sorry.
Now, you mentioned that it's vegans that are eating these alternative protein products, but my understanding is there's not that many of them in the country.
No,
So I've been hearing that it's really kind of they're calling the flexitarians that are eating these products, and they're new to the grocery stores and the shelves, and so I'm curious why don't these alternative protein products come up with their own new distinguished set of terminology to really differentiate themselves? Because moms are going to the grocery store, they know what meat is, they know what eggs are and what dairy is, but yet it seems like these products are quite different than what they're used to, especially from a nutritional point of view. So why don't they just come up with their own set of terminology to really differentiate if what you're saying is that they're better products, or they have these climate benefits?
For the vegans, this is a growing market, and you can't substitute away and have them buy animal protein. They're either going to buy it from us or they're going to buy it from China. For them, probably having a different label, having milk with an E in it, is probably an advantage. But like I say, the more important market in terms of greenhouse gases is the market in China and India, the new middle class. They're going to be the ones that are growing more. Singapore set a total of having 100% alternative protein.
Well, I'm certainly concerned about our global climate emissions, but to be honest, I'm much more concerned about the state of bliss in our country, and I'm concerned about particularly where our current farmers could stand to benefit from these products. And right now it seems like there's a cast of innovators and private sector, Silicon Valley companies that are coming in and kind of infringing upon the ability of some of our farmers to benefit. So how can I talk to the farmers that I represent and authentically and truthfully say that they'll benefit from this?
Oh, I'm glad you asked me that. You can tell them three different things. Number one, the land grant colleges are going to be eligible to get grants under this program, and they're going to be developing new crops. Number two, there's a lot of small individual grants through this program, which specifically I tailored to go to small farmers. But last but not least, if they can grow on land that they're being paid now to have fallow, then they are going to get the benefit of having more jobs for their children.
What are they going to be growing on this now fallow land?
They could be growing alfalfa. They could be growing. Sorry, no, I've got the wrong thing. They could be. No. My mind is going blank here. I want to say tofu. Sorry, I've got.
Well, tofu's a soy
Yeah.
product, so we
Soy,
definitely
so
know that
that's
we have
what
a lot of
that's
soy
what-
going
that's what I
on.
just-
Sure.
So they could be growing soy protein on that same land.
Okay.
And then again, their children are going to have jobs. Right now, we're losing 2% of agricultural jobs every single year. That's because we have land being left fallow. Under my program, they would be growing on that land, but we would have greener production. And we would have some people substituting away from, the other climate, you said the climate benefit. The other benefit is, again, then we have more diversification within the individual farmers. And as I said, really, our animal protein producers should be getting on board with this, because then they could diversify their own production.
Okay. Well, I am a little bit concerned as well about the price and the nutritional quality of some of these products. And I'm curious how I understand you represent an alternative protein company when it comes to the labels and really putting something like an egg on a product that might not have the nutritional quality of a traditional egg. How are you working toward that? How is that something that families and mothers that are buying these products can actually feel good about?
Ultimately, the USDA is going to have to approve all the labeling. But the two big problems in terms of alternative proteins today are number one, price, and number two, taste. And these are things that with research, we can improve upon. And again, as a good model, I would look at, for example, look how quickly we got COVID vaccines, 18 months from start all the way into production. Why? Because the government kicked in a whole lot of money. And because they did that, then producers were quickly coming up with a good product. As an alternative, I would talk about solar panels, where initially the United States had the lead. Today they're being produced in China. It's something that we could locate in the Middle West, we could locate in our farm states, in our land-grant colleges, where we already have the expertise. And I can't even tell you how good the products will be, because it will be the research, and the publication in my program, where we're going to have our own journals that are going to be giving new ideas for our farmers into things to produce. Who knows what we'll be producing 10 years from now? But I know if we don't do this, China will be producing it, and they'll be selling it to us.
Our time has come to a close.
Okay. Thank you. And again,
All right, well, thank you.
Say goodbye to our next president. Okay? Thank you.
Hi, good morning.
Nice to meet you, Sandra. Nice to meet you, Stephanie.
Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Now,
Tell us your name again.
Yes.
Who you're with?
Hi, my name is Daria Bednarczyk, and I am the Government Affairs Director for ProAlt,
Okay.
a company that's currently located in Bliss, and we are
It's like a veggie burger company?
we're an alternative protein production company.
So explain that to me. I don't understand.
Yeah, I'm confused about that term just broadly because I feel like it includes so much. So what part of the sector are you in?
So currently what ProAlt is working on is innovating the food system in Bliss. And what we're doing is we're prioritizing plant-based protein alternatives, as well as looking into cultivated protein production. And
That's the bioreactor meat?
so the cultivated meat has a little bit more work that needs to be done before we can confidently talk about the progress that it could make.
It's the lab grown stuff?
This is lab
Sorry about
grown.
that, okay.
However, there have been so many grants that have been offered to both Bliss State University, and there are also government grants that can be offered to support further research and development at local and state universities. There has been a lot of progress made and shown how important that the alternative protein sector can have, not only on food insecurity, climate change, but also making Bliss the face of innovative food products.
Now, would that research take that meat out of a lab and make it, produced in a more traditional way? And where do farmers fit into that equation?
So this is not to compete with current conventional agricultural practices. This is meant to supplement the current agricultural industry.
Okay.
And what would happen is that, in particular with the cultivated meat, cells that are extracted from the muscles of live animals would be then cultivated in a lab just so that we could help reduce carbon emissions, which are a really big problem right now on a global level and then on a national level.
Yes.
And so what would happen with that is then within a safe and sterile laboratory, we could create more meat and alternative products without having to create a larger carbon footprint on the globe. And in accordance with the Federal Meat and Inspection Act, any meat that is extracted from the muscle of an animal, the end product is still considered meat. So under that standard, a cultivated end product, a food product, could still be labeled as meat
Okay.
under the federal means.
I just don't know if the senator's constituents are ready for like test tube tikka masala. It sounds scientific to me.
Chief of Staff, I completely understand. But currently, we've had so many successful alternative proteins throughout the state. Birkeland alone has 53 alternative producers. And we have shown that the research that's being done will be super helpful, not only to stabilize the economy and bring more jobs to both Birkeland and Bliss, but if we don't support HR 1061, then another state will welcome this opportunity. And we should really expand on the economy of our people and bring jobs and innovate the already existing agricultural sector. And this would help farmers right now either grow more crops. And Chief of Staff, I heard that you used to have a dairy farm, is that correct?
That's correct.
And did you transition it to growing crops?
We did, well, more like almonds and figs, but that's real food to me. That's not this manufactured stuff.
Which I understand. However, the food that we are trying to grow, a lot of the crops, would help make our products. And by reducing the agricultural and like the dairy industries, not reducing them, but supplementing them, what we could do
They're
is-
having a hard time right now already.
Yes, but by asking these farmers to help grow the crops that are necessary to produce alternative proteins, we could enhance their already existing farms by asking them to grow soy products, alfalfa, oats, lentils. So that would just add to
Their burden.
not to their burden. I mean, there are a lot of new farmers that are trying to enter the market, and I think that we should cultivate and teach in modern technologies in farming. And that's what the money that not only the state, but the USDA, the government, is willing to fund these land grant institutions would help us combat to make sure that this is done in a positive way.
And so if this sector's so good, why do you need taxpayer money for it?
Excuse me?
If this sector's doing so well, why do you need taxpayer money?
It's not just taxpayer money. There are several USDA grants that are willing to support these institutions because
Which is taxpayer funded, of course.
I understand, but it's for the benefit of the people, and not just people here, but nationwide, because I can tell you that currently in the state of California, there's been a $5 million grant that is being distributed against throughout 3 separate universities to continue research and development. And I know that there are other universities throughout the state of Bliss that are also funding agricultural protein alternative schools.
How much research is needed? I mean, you mentioned, and I'm proud that there are so many alternative protein companies in Bliss, but with these companies already kind of on the market and producing products, and it sounds like research is ongoing. Why is it so critical right now that we get more, right? That the federal government is investing in it if this innovation is already happening on the state level?
Absolutely, that's a great question because the alternative protein sector is already in swing. However, because climate change is such a big issue globally and nationally, we need to do the best we can to not only protect our environment, lower our carbon footprint, which alternative proteins can do that by up to 50%, if not more. And this could bring new economic opportunity as well as show the people of Bliss that we care not just about alternative proteins. This isn't an agenda to push a vegan diet or a vegetarian diet, but to expand dietary choices.
And I believe in expanding dietary choices for sure, and making sure that the choices that we're investing in are nutritious. And so that is of deep concern to me, as you know, and some of these delicate conversations we're having around, the choice between feeding hungry families and, kind of battling against what seems to be a bit of a fringe issue. So help me understand, the perspective of ProAlt and some of your cohort in focusing on nutrition and making sure that these products, if they're calling themselves meat and calling themselves dairy, that they're actually equivalent in that way, and that when a mother goes to a grocery store, that she can feel good about buying these products and nourishing her family with them.
Yes, absolutely. And Senator Ali, from what I know is that you have actually spoken with a lot of the CEOs from the alternative protein companies. And I think that you are a little impressed with how they are doing and the innovation that they are ensuring that these foods are not only nutritious, but they are affordable and that they are friendly to the climate. And so, for instance, for the SNAP program, implementing alternative products could be really useful because it would allow the lower income families or anybody who relies on that assistance to expand their choices. Say that a mother has a certain diet that she wants to adhere to, but current SNAP does not allow her to purchase those products because it's not a SNAP eligible product. And currently with S2039, that would really restrict our capabilities of expanding the market and showing our constituents that we are not here to push out the agricultural sector, but just to diversify, innovate, and make Bliss the face of innovative foods.
So we've only have a few minutes left. So what exactly would you like the senator to do?
I am here to ask you to support HR 1061 because the effects of S2039 would have devastating effects on the alternative protein industry. And there has been so much money and research and investment. And even we have 2 scientists in the state who are being highly recognized for their research in alternative proteins and how this could help feed the world. I know that's a really big term, but it's not going to happen overnight. So with incremental change and pushing for innovation, we could make this happen, but S2039 would undo all of that. And without having any empirical data to show that supporting S2039 would be a little bit of a knee-jerk reaction. And I think more needs to be done before supporting S2039. And therefore, we ask for your support for HR 1061.
Well, I certainly believe in innovation, and I recognize that it's a critical moment for this sector right now. So I'll consider that, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Senator Arlene and Chief of Staff Hansen.
Good morning.
Hi, I'm Senator Arlene. Thank you.
Well, Hannah, welcome. I'm feeling a little bit under the weather, so I apologize, but wanted to make sure we had a little bit of time this morning to meet. I know that you're here to discuss a very important issue, so let's get into it. What are you here for, and who are you with again?
Yeah, so thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate both of you taking out some time of your busy schedules to meet with me. I represent ProAlt Inc. ProAlt Inc. is an alternative protein company that's
Like a
based.
veggie burger company?
Yeah, so ProAlt specializes in the production of alternative proteins.
What does that mean again?
Alternative proteins, it's kind of a subcategory for 2 types of protein. So there's
Okay.
plant-based and cell-cultivated protein.
So the lab-grown meat, is that what you all are working on right now?
We're working on both.
Okay.
We're working on the innovation and production of both plant-based and cell-cultivated
Have you tried the
meat.
lab-grown stuff?
No, so lab-grown meat, cell-cultivated meat isn't currently for sale for consumption.
Okay.
It's still in the
I hear a lot about it, though. I'm surprised by that.
Yeah, so there's a lot of opportunity for cell-cultivated meat to really help support the food system and support feeding vulnerable populations in America by just supplementing our food system. So there's a lot of research and technology being put into it right now, especially within Bliss. There's, by my latest count, 56 alternative protein companies in the state. So
Isn't there a concern, though, that it could also put traditional farmers out of business if we won't
Yeah,
be using the same
I'm
inputs?
super worried about that. I mean, I want to make sure that, of course, that I'm supporting innovation and climate smart practices, but not at the expense of our farmers and our farm communities.
absolutely. So there's actually a recent report by the White House that was put out regarding competition in the animal agriculture industry. That shows that currently small farmers are struggling because of the competition. There's just 4 meat producing companies that are responsible for a majority of the meat production in the country, and that's really driving these small farmers to lose profits 50 years ago, they were making about 60 cents per dollar on beef. Today, they're only making about 39 cents per dollar on beef. So there really is a need to be able to support these small farmers with the production of crops. And that's exactly, what HR 1061, which is a bill that Pro-Alt worked very closely with Representative Burton on, what it aims to do by supporting small farmers, providing them with equipment they may need to produce alternative proteins, as well as connecting them with key industry players, which actually kind of transitions me into one of the main reasons I wanted to meet with you today, which was to urge you to oppose S 2039, which would seek to directly oppose the work that the Protein Act, HR 1061, aims to do.
And how would they do that? How would this bill do that?
How would
2039, what's the problem with it?
Yeah, so 2039, it seeks to take away the ability for farmers to innovate and produce alternative proteins. It will take away federal funding from these farmers, and that is really needed to be able to, like I mentioned, sustain our food system and be able to supply food not only to Americans but also to vulnerable communities.
So, I've been watching the growth of kind of the alt protein sector over the past couple of years. And, I hear a lot about some of these arguments around climate, and greenhouse gas emissions, and even things like resource usage. But I'm also curious, if there is so much belief in the strength of your products and that you are so different than traditional meat, dairy, and eggs, why not come up with your own set of terminology that really distinguishes you from what's out there right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. It basically just comes down to consumer perception. Consumers are very persuaded by the terminology they see on labeling. There's a lot of studies that I would be more than happy to send over to your office regarding that. Absolutely, I'll follow up with that. But it essentially says consumers, they see familiar terminology on packaging and they immediately have a positive association with that and are inclined to buy it. When they see unfamiliar terminology, they become a little bit skeptical.
What do you see out there?
Yeah, such as analog or imitation. Those things just have negative connotations.
And aren't vegans smart enough to know what products they're buying?
Yeah, absolutely. But again, it comes back to perception and just the influence that terminology can have. In recent years, there's been trends for kind of clean labeling is what it's called. Again, happy to send information about that. So it really just comes down to consumer persuasion.
So when folks are buying, a plant-based milk or cultivated burger, if they're using the same terminology, I think that, a mother shopping for her family would also be expecting the same nutritional content and quality. And so help me understand the work that you all are doing at Pro-Alt and more broadly in Brookeland and Bliss to advance the nutritional composition that's critically important to me, to make sure that when families go to buy these products, they're not sacrificing on that front, because we obviously have multiple health issues in this country, both from a health equity point of view and wanting to make sure that we're not furthering that crisis more by allowing products that maybe don't compete to be able to use these terms.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And again, that goes back into the research and innovation that's being done all over Bliss. Again, there's 56 alternative protein companies in the state that are working to research and develop alternative proteins, as well as a couple research institutions.
If they're doing so great, why do they need taxpayer money? I don't understand.
Sure. It's still an up-and-coming field. There's still a lot of research to be put into it, especially cultivated meat. As I talked about, it's not yet for sale because it's still so early in the production phases. But also with plant-based meat, there's a lot of research that's still being done into other types of plants that can go into the plant-based meat that can further nutritional values and things of that nature.
Okay.
So
how would that work? Like how are you all actually working on that front? I mean, is it from the crop point of view and using different crops, or just kind of iterating on things like soy?
So there's kind of a linear effect. So like I mentioned, there's some universities in Bliss that are working on research.
Okay.
That research will thus be translated into the work that these alternative protein companies are doing. And these alternative protein companies will communicate with the farmers in the district and in the state to say, hey, you know, this crop is looking to be a real potential for plant-based proteins, and this is what we would like to purchase from you. So it's really an opportunity to support the research that's being done at these institutions, these universities, and then we'll benefit the farmers.
Yeah, I didn't realize there was so much research involved in turning, soy into a burger. Did you, Riley?
I did not know. And again, we really need to make sure that everyone gets brought along on this. We can't have this be perceived as we've got, there's a lot of different constituencies that we need to balance, and we're all for innovation, but we really need to make sure that everyone's being brought along on this. It's not an either or.
Absolutely. And yeah, so I know that S29 seems like it would help, prevent the alienization of constituents, but really there are a lot of constituents that would be opposed to S2039. Farmers, the universities, research institutions, and voters. And there's also a lot of coalition building that ProAl has been doing between environmental groups, public interest groups. All of these people would be opposed to S2039. And I'd be happy to direct some of that communication to your office so you can see the opposition there.
So why not just, let the best idea win? So your side can have 1061 in the House, and then the 2039 can be in the Senate bill, and they'll just fight it out in committee, and the best idea wins. So why are you afraid of that?
Again, coming back to just suppressing the ability to feed Americans and provide opportunities for vulnerable Americans, I do want to just share the text of the Protein Act as well as the fact sheet, because there is a provision in the Protein Act that has similar benefits to SNAP. So it will provide opportunities for vulnerable Americans, such as those in hospitals, food banks, homeless shelters, schools. It'll provide food opportunities for those vulnerable Americans and help feed them. Again, it'll help farmers who are below the poverty line, who are struggling to be able to make ends meet and to sustain their farm because of the competition they're facing with the animal.
How would it do that? How exactly is this going to link to farmers today? I know some of the research is happening in universities and in the federal sphere, but how would that actually impact, farmers in my state on the ground and, nationwide?
Yeah, again, because the use of crops is so essential to producing plant-based proteins, farmers are really going to supply the ingredients needed to produce these products. And Riley, I know that you grew up on a dairy farm and that your family actually transitioned that into a plant farm. So I would love to hear thoughts on how that went for your family and
mainly it was just because small farmers are being squeezed out, and so the dairy industry is going down. So it was just a matter of survival for us. I do consider things like the almonds and figs to be more real food than this culture stuff you're talking about. But also, I did feel for the cows, but I can see our time here has come to a close. So, but you can just tell us some of what you'd like us to do for you.
Yes. So ultimately, I would really like to urge you to oppose S2039. And if you'd like to, discuss further about the Protein Act and or maybe a member of your staff, I would be more than happy to follow up with you. Again, send you some of the data that I mentioned today.
Yeah, that would be great.
And again, just thank you so much for your time, both of you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for coming in. Appreciate it.